Square root of 48, looking for the biggest square number factor, which is 16. 16 times 3 gives us 48, and the square root of 16 is 4, so the final answer is 4 root 3. Square root of 1000, the biggest square number factor of 1000 is 100. So 100 times 10, and the square root of 100 is 10, so it's 10 root 10. 2 root 18, we can't do anything with the 2 just now. Square root of 18 breaks down into root 9, root 3. Now the square root of 9 is 2, beg your pardon, the square root of 9 is 3. So it's 2 times 3, 6, 6 root 3. In part A, the 2 and the 7 will multiply together to give us 14. 14 root 3 then is the simplest answer, simplest form. Now, what we can do here is multiply the 5 and the 4 and the root 2 and root 3. 5 times 4 gives us 20. Square root of 2 times the square root of 3 is the square root of 6. That's as far as it goes. So we've got 3 root 7 times 4 root 7 minus 2. Expand the brackets, so we'll have 3 root 7 times 4 root 7, and we've got a negative then, 3 root 7 times 2. Now the 3 times 4 gives me 12. Root 7 times root 7 is root 49, although we could have written that simply as 7. Remember, root 7 times, what I've done is written that as root 49, but we could have gone straight to the answer 7. And what we have here then is 2 times 3 is 6 root 7. 12 times 7, 7 12s are 84. So it's 84 minus 6 root 7. Now, part D. So, multiplying out brackets. So it's 3 root 5 times 2 root 5. And the next term we have is minus 3 root 5 times 1, which is 3 root 5. Then we've got plus 4 times 2 root 5. And 4 times minus 1 is minus 4. Now, 3 times 2 is 6. Root 5 times root 5 is 5. Minus 3 root 5 plus 8 root 5 minus 4. 30. Now, minus 3 plus 8 is 5, so we've got 5 root 5 minus 4, and the final answer then is 30 take away 4 is 26 plus 5 root 5. Part E, we've got 2 root 3 plus root 2 squared. So, 2 root 3 times 2 root 3, the 2 times 2 gives me 4, root 3 times root 3 is 3. Now, that's what? Well, I have 2, and the root 3 times the root 2 gives me root 6. And what do I have here? I've got another 2, root 3 root 2 gives me root 6. And then I have root 2 times root 2, which is root 4 or 2. So I've cut down the working a little bit here. What I have here is I've got 12 plus 2 gives me 14. 2 root 6 plus 2 root 6 is 4 root 6. Rationalising the denominator, so I have 9 over root 3. I'm going to multiply top and bottom by root 3. That gives me 9 root 3. Now the square root of 3 times the square root of 3 is square root of 9, which is 3. And you'll notice that this 3 cancels out with this 9. So the final answer is 3 root 3 over 1, which is 3 root 3. Part B, 12 over 3 root 2. So I'm going to multiply top and bottom by root 2. Multiplying tops then of the fractions, so that gives me 12 root 2 on top. Now, root 2 times root 2, these two numbers multiplied together gives me root 4 or 2, and that 2 times this 3 gives me a 6. Then I'm going to cancel down. 6 into itself goes once, 6 into 12 goes 2 times. So we have 2 root 2 over 1, which is 2 root 2. 5 root 3 over 3 root 5. Multiply top and bottom by root 5. Now, these two multiply together to give me root 15, so it's 5 root 15 on the top. And these two multiply together to give me a 5. So that 5 times this 3 gives me 15. I have 5 on the top. 5 goes into itself once and into 15 3 times. The final answer then is root 15 over 3. So what we want to do here is multiply top and bottom by the conjugate, and the conjugate is going to be 3 plus root 2 over 3 plus root 2. Conjugate is found by changing whatever sign we have here to the opposite. So what do I have? Well, on top I've just got one lot of 3 plus root 2. On the bottom, I will need to expand the brackets, so it's 3 times 3, which is 9, plus 3 times root 2, here's a minus 3 root 2, and here is a, now that's negative, and we've got root 2 times root 2, which is 4, root of 4, which is 2 rather. Notice that these two terms here cancel out. That always happens when we multiply by the conjugate. The two middle terms cancel. So on top we have 3 plus root 2. On the bottom we have 9 minus 2. 9 minus 2 is 7. 3 plus root 2 over 7. Part E. So I'm going to multiply by the conjugate, which is, now the conjugate is the bottom line with the sign reversed, so it's going to be root 3 minus 1. We multiply top and bottom by the same thing, root 3 minus 1. So on the top we have 4 lots of root 3 minus 1, and on the bottom we have what? Well, if I just put a bracket around this and get rid of this arrow, we have what? So it's root 3 times root 3, which is root 9, or 3, I then have root 3 times minus 1. I have 1 times root 3. And then I have 1 times minus 1, which is minus 1. And you can see again that the middle terms cancel out. So we have 4 bracket root 3 minus 1 over 3, take away 1 is 2. Now you can see, I hope, that we have a 2 on the bottom. 2 goes into itself once, into this 4 twice. So the final answer then is 2 lots of root 3 minus 1. Some work with indices. These two numbers are going to multiply. 5 times 4 is 20. Then we're going to have an x. Now what happens when we multiply powers? We add these two numbers here. 4 plus 2 then gives us 6. 15 divided by 3 is 5. We'll have a b, and when we're dividing powers, we subtract the indices, so it's going to be 4 minus minus 3. That gives us the answer then, 5b to the power of 7. So part C, well, these two terms are going to multiply. The 7 and the 2 will give us a 14. X to the power of what? Well, remember, multiplying powers, we add the indices. So 1/2 plus 5 over 2 gives us 6 over 2. Minus, and then these two terms are going to multiply. Now it's 7 times 1, so the coefficient is going to be 7. X to the power of what? Well, let me just rub out the red. So it's we're going to add this number and this number because we're still multiplying the x's. So we add the powers. 1/2 plus minus 1/2 is 0. We can't leave it there, we've got to simplify. 6 over 2 is 3, so it's 14 x to the power of 3. And x to the power of 0 is 1, so it's 7 times 1, which is 7. In this one, we'll need to write out the bracket, the double bracket. You know how to expand brackets, so I wonder if I can make things just a bit quicker. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add these two numbers. 1/4 plus 1/4 is 2/4, plus x to the power of, so I'm going to add this number, 1/4 plus minus 1/4. 1/4 plus minus 1/4 is 0. Plus, then it's these two terms. So I'm going to add these two numbers. Minus 1/4 plus 1/4 is 0. And then it's these two terms I'm going to work with. So that gives me another x. And I want to add these two numbers, minus 1/4 plus minus 1/4. That gives me minus 2/4. 2 over 4 is 1/2, so x to the power of 1/2. X to the power of 0 is 1. X to the power of 0 is 1. And then 2 over 4 is 1/2, so we've got minus 1/2 here. Final answer is x to the power of 1/2 plus 2 plus x to the power of minus 1/2. Without a calculator, that can be quite tricky, but it's useful to be able to do them. So 27. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to break the power 2/3 down into 1/3 times 2. And the power of 1/3 is the cubed root. And the cube root of 27 is 3, because 3 times 3 times 3 equals 27. Don't forget the square, so it's 3 squared. So the bracket, cube root of 27 is 3, and we've got this power of 2, and 3 squared then is 9. Part B, 4 to the power of minus 3 over 2. The first thing we do if we have a negative power is change it. So 4 to the power of minus 3 over 2 is 1 over 4 to the power of 3 over 2. I'm going to break that power down, so it's 4 to the power of 1/2 all to the power of 3. 4 to the power of 1/2 is the square root of 4. And the square root of 4 is 2. And don't forget the power of 3 there. So the bracket gives us a 2, and it's 2 to the power of 3, which is 1 over 8. The last one we have to do. Now, this is interesting. If I have a negative power on the top line, it means that if I move it up, I'll have a positive power. When we move from bottom to top, the sign of the power changes, and vice versa. So what I'm going to do then is write that as 3 lots of, that's 81 to the power of 1/4. That's the first step. Now, what number times itself times itself times itself equals 81? That number is 3. So this part here has the value 3. And 3 times 3 is 9.